So welcome and thank you all for joining. And thank all of you that ended up sending in pictures of how you did tool storage. It's going to be, I think, interesting to go through and see. And there's some new wrinkles that popped up as well. In general, first of all, I should welcome those who view this later uh, via the web page. We thank you for joining us and offer you to join both our meeting as well as our organization. Um, Basically, I've organized this in kind of like two different sections. One is what I would call typically wall mounts, and the other category is stand mounts. And while they're similar, there's unique little things here and there that make it different, and hopefully you will find informative and enjoyable. So, having done all that, anybody have anything they want to say before we get started?
Bruce, if I may, I'll just point out for people who've been with Chips and Grits for a long time, we had a similar topic on January 12th, 2022. So if you have notes from that Chips and Grits, you can refer back to those too.
Thank you, sir. All right. Chuck, are you ready?
Yes. Yes.
Let's take a look, see if I get the right one. The wonders of science.
How about
Wow.
Take it away, Chuck.
that? Oh, okay. This is a rack. It's on a sheet of plywood, and there are little the boards at the bottom, done with Forstner bits, not all the way through. And then I use a magnet bar to hold them in place. The shorter tools on the bottom, the longer tools on the top. And then you'll see three tools hanging. Those are either too long for my rack, or one is an easy way tool that is not magnetic, so it doesn't work on this rack. So that way I keep them all together. I have now moved my lathe. I used to have to reach across my lathe for this, but now it's going to be behind me. So it should be easy access. You want to go to the next picture, Bruce? Yeah, and so this is a little bit closer. And then I guess the next picture is kind of the key. What makes this setup unique is I have mounted this board to another 8-inch board that comes out of the wall. That board is attached to the wall with angle brackets, and then my main board is attached to that with a piano hinge. And that way I can access the space behind it. I've got my bar clamps hanging there on the wall, so I didn't lose all that wall space. I only lost a couple inches. But then I also use this for storing all my chucks and my chuck jaws. And the chuck jaws are organized by just attaching to, again, angle magnet bars. And so it's kind of everything is all in one place, and for easy access. And the hinge, I think the hinge part is probably the key that makes this work.
Very good.
Very nice.
Chuck, a question. Is that mounted against the wall with a hinge so it can swing back and forth?
The board, the main sheet of plywood is attached to the solid wood with a hinge, and then it's actually attached to the wall with just some angle brackets. So that is permanently 90 degrees to the wall. But then, Bruce, you can point that where those join is a hinge. Yeah, there's the angle brackets. And then just to the left is the hinge. To the left of the chucks, right there. That's where the hinge
Oh, yeah.
is.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Chuck? About
With
his
the
chucks?
magnets, sorry, with the magnets, do you have any issues with the things falling off, or are those pretty strong magnets that, like, if you
Susan,
accidentally bump it?
yeah, that's a great question. Those are your, I think $2.99 or $3.99 Harbor Freight magnet bars. And I actually have a tough time getting them the jaws off. It's pretty strong. And then the same thing with the tools on the other side. I've never had an issue with a tool coming off, except one, if the handle diameter hits the board and it prevents the tool from actually touching the magnet, and you can barely see a little bit at the top there, some of the tall tools. I actually have a second magnet, yeah, right there. I actually have a second magnet in there to make sure that it sits if the handle is too big, that it still touches the magnet. The second issue, Susan, is, and I wish Dan Hall were here, but I wasn't thinking, and I took one of those small tools, and there was an opening in the top rack, and I set it up there, moving along too fast, I guess, and it balanced. But the moment I went to grab another tool, then it fell, and I got a nice cut in my wrist. So that's my only piece of advice. If you do something like this, make sure you put the short tools in the short rack and the tall tools in the tall rack.
So the short tool didn't reach the magnet.
No, exactly. It was just balanced there precariously.
Any other questions of Chuck? All right. Now let's see, the wonders of science. Ken.
Bruce, can I interrupt for just a moment?
Yes, sir.
I had requested to go first. I have to go pretty soon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry if it interrupts your agenda, but we're getting ready for a road trip, and I need to leave before the end of this, and so if I can't do it now, I'm just gonna have to sign off and take off. So
Okay, hang on a minute. Through the wonders of science. Wait, no, I got to do this other thing first. Yeah.
sorry, Ken, to jump in there.
No problem. I'm available anytime through the whole time period here. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter to me what sequence.
It is amazing to me all the convoluted things you have to do to get around to be able to share. You're on, Mark.
Okay, well, I think I might have shown this before, like Ken mentioned. This is a tool rack made by Honorable Ed Jones, and I purchased the thing. I didn't build it myself, and of course Ed Jones built it, but from his estate sale. Anyway, that top portion is on a swivel, so it easily accessible for any tool standing in front. So below is 3 drawers there where I keep other tool accessories and stuff. So now our safety coordinator, Dan Hall, would probably slap my wrist about this, but all the pointed portions of the tools are pointing up. And yes, there is a risk. You can see some of them shorter than others, a risk of maybe nicking your hands or fingers, wrist, or whatever. But I have to tell you, I'm very, very careful if I'm going to select something that's close to another tool. So it works for me, and I just love this little cart. It's on wheels, so that's what I do. If anybody ever wants some dimensions or would like to build one like it, certainly welcome to come and take measurements and take a look at it. But I just love this little tool cart. It's simply made of PVC and looks like bolted birch plywood. So my little memento from Ed Jones. So any questions on that part?
What do
Okay.
you keep in the drawers?
There's some, you see some carbide tips on the carousel there. I keep my extra tips in there. Some other smaller tools. There's some real small pen making tools that I keep in there, and I think there's a vacuum chuck head that I store in there. I, some other little, I didn't take a picture with the drawer open, but that's what's in there. Little handle that you see there. Ed added that just to kind of stabilize it when you move it. I don't move it much. I just leave it same place. Okay. So there's this is the pegboard behind my my lathe, and you might say towards the middle of the screen there's a orange curled hose. That's compressed air that I piped in there, and I have a little handle, pistol handle, so the compressed air is easily accessible. I just grab that and just spray it there. So I really like having that available, and it's ready to go. So I just pick it up, and I have a 60-gallon air compressor that feeds that, and so it's kind of a mess right now. My whole workshop is an unorganized and a mess, but so I'm kind of a, if it's out of sight, out of mind type guy, you know. So I like to have the tools and my accessories available. If I'm looking for a tri-square, I just look up to the board and there it is. You know, I like having them visible to me. So, okay, this is my sanding disc. I bought several of these little I don't know what to call them. That they fit into your drill. What sanding disc with the Velcro on it. So I bought, I think, 5 of these for $10, and the little sanding pads that go on there. I think it was a package of 500 for maybe 10, 15 bucks or something like that. So, and then the case itself came from Harbor Freight. So the whole thing cost me about, I would say around 50 bucks. But I like it because kind of like Walt Spencer, when you get to the sanding part, I really hate that part, you know. So this makes it convenient. I can just start with 60 or 80, 100 grit, and I just change the little disc as opposed to ripping the sandpaper off of it. Just go one all the way up to 200, 400, 600 if I want to, whatever.
Having it that way, I can see how having your separate ones, because I have one and my Velcro goes away quite quickly because I'm always changing it.
Yes, and that's my purpose for it, having that with the quick release on the drill. It's just real easy to go from one to the other. But like I say, I got 5 in a package for 10 bucks on Amazon. So it was very affordable. And another thing I want to tell you, just like you alluded to there, Susan, if you stay too long on sanding, I learned something. I'm going to share with you. You stay too long, those little Velcro hooks there, they'll melt. You know, and I've stayed on there just going, I really need to take this down, and stayed too long, and then the sanding pad wouldn't stay on anymore. So I just melted that little hook in there. So lesson
Mark,
learned.
I'm sorry to say you're not the only one that's done that.
Mhm.
Well, just lesson learned, is go, Mark, why'd you do that? Well, okay, so lesson learned.
A
So
comment on the Velcro. If you are sanding enough to get it hot enough to melt the Velcro, then you're also getting the wood too hot, and the wood too hot causes cracks. And if you're just sanding a little bit too much, those same little Velcro hairs are losing their, whatever you would call it, their tension or their hooking capability. So you're actually degrading those Velcro grippers just about every time you sand, if you're staying, sanding long enough to get it warm but not really hot. So keep that in mind. Just keep your sanding each time to minimum pressure, minimum time.
another good point, Dave. And I learned that along the way too. So what I've learned to do is to start at the lower grit and give it its due process, and then just move to the next grit, and not stay too long on one grit. So yeah, point taken, and I learned that. It's nice to share the information. So I just thought I'd show that portion of
Okay,
it.
well,
And
thanks for showing that. I think something like that is my next step in setting up a convenient way to do sanding by getting multiple sanding heads arranged like that. I'm currently using the same process as Susan, just keep on switching stuff. So thanks for that.
well, you're welcome. And you might notice, go to the next slide there, Bruce. So you might notice that each little compartment is labeled. I have a label maker, and I just put them in there. It takes a little bit of time to get that organized, but it saves me the effort. So they're labeled, and when I'm done with it, I just put it away. And when I'm done sanding, just close the lid and put it back on the shelf as opposed to laying out. So the if you could scroll out, there you go. The one in the foreground, there's the kind of dome looking pads there. Those are really handy to get down into the bottom of the bowl. It's called a Genevieve sanding system, and that little bulbous looking thing, the black in the lower left hand corner, that fits into the drill, and then that sanding pad goes over the top of that, and it works. You can
Where'd
see
that come from, Mark?
I bought it online, but I think Rockler has them, or maybe Woodcraft. I can't remember. I've seen them there. It takes a little bit of practice to get to the where the mouse is right now. It's not ready to go at that point. You have to get it. There's a little cam that fits into that that rubber. I don't know what to call it. The rubber bulb, and and then that black thing, that's a little pump, and that pumps air into that bulb, and that bulb expands into the round sandpaper, and then you put it on your drill. So it takes a little bit of practice to get it right. And if somebody wants to see it in action, I'm more than happy to show them how to do it. Okay, this last slide is just with the lids closed. I put the name of the sanding disc and what it is, in case, you know, when in the future I want to go buy some, I can remember where I got it, or the name of the tool, like the King Arthur tool. It's a Genevieve flexible miniatures. So I don't have to go search around for the information. It's right on the package, or right on the storage unit.
I think that
Well-
says Guinevere. Does that sound right, Mark?
Yeah, you're saying it better than I do.
Okay. All right, good. Because I'm looking it
Guinevere.
up and I couldn't find it. So now that I see it, I'm going to have a better chance of finding it.
Yeah, it's probably French, Guinevere. I don't know, but
Bien sûr.
I don't know, but it works.
Lancelot's sister.
Yeah, but it works for me. Again, like I said before, if somebody wants to see how it works, I'm more than happy to show you. So that's my storage, and I have a lot of others, but I didn't take the time to take any pictures. So my workshop is very unorganized and right now, and I'm in the process. A couple of people know about it, like Rick and Jay know how I've been trying to get it done. So there it is.
And right
Any
along with
questions?
what you said, Bruce, on Amazon, it's in the King Arthur's Tools is the Guinevere sanding kit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thanks for sharing, Mark.
Well, you're welcome.
Very nicely organized, Mark.
Well, thank you, but yeah, I don't feel organized. I'm in the process. Let's put it that way. But okay, I will hang on just a little bit longer, and at some point I'm going to sign off because I gotta get going. We're ready for a road trip. As soon as I get the sign from my better half, I'll I'll sign off soon.
All right. Let's go to Ken
Safe
then.
trip. And enjoy yourself.
Yes.
Okay, this is a wall mount. This rack actually started in Idaho as two different parts. I custom made it to fit my workshop area there. And when I moved to Arizona, I mounted this on the wall in front of Kathy's, her lathe. And we share grabbing tools there. Unfortunately, because of that location, I have to reach over her lathe periodically to get something, but it's convenient for both of us. And it was sized, you can see the tall bottom gouge on the right-hand side of the rack is taller than the rack because I sized it before I had that particular gouge. So my great intent is to redo all of this and make room for more. But I want to point out, Bruce, can you zoom into the bottom? Go down. We've been talking about the sanding discs and the magnetic catch. I built these sanding discs based on what Gary Frank had given, I think, a Tuesday demo on, and he has all the information that's needed. You can make this yourself. There's a quick release for the drill, and these posts will be a quick release. You put into the piece of wood, put it on your lathe, turn it so you know it's centered, and then you can get the sanding pads. They have the Velcro pad part on, or hook part on one side and pad on the other. So each one of these is a different grit. And because of the location they're hanging off the bottom edge of this rack, it's very convenient to grab those when I'm sanding. So if you'd like more details on those, then Gary, I'm sure, would be glad to share those with you. They're fairly easy to make and fairly cheap. Okay, next. Next picture.
Working on it.
There we go. Pegboard, I've got more gouges than will fit on that rack. And so you can see I've used some holders on part of the pegboard. Also note that's where I put my calipers and clipboard and just convenient location. Next. That's just a close-up of what I'm using on the pegboard. Next. And I still have more gouges, some of which are the originals that are really poor quality, but I don't want to get rid of them because I may grind them down for something else. But others fit in the drawer of the toolbox. So don't have anything as organized as Mark does, but they're all accessible. This toolbox is very convenient to both Kathy and my reach while we're at the lathes. So it works out okay. Next. I have several different tool rests, and I didn't like just having them laying around. So I took a piece of scrap plywood, drilled some 1-inch and 5/8 inch holes in it, and mounted this on the wall in front of my lathe so that all of my tool rests are more readily available and out of the way. Next. This is something I built to go on the lathe, and it's probably the most helpful thing I've made. It's simply a plywood box, 3-sided box, and I've attached it with C-clamps to the back side of my lathe ways. There's another magnet bar on there and the scallops, and it's very handy. The magnet helps a whole lot, and the tray is something I can drop a tool in there if I need to. I'm going to use it later. The scallops keep things from rolling around. The magnet is also very good for holding it, but as was pointed out earlier, I think Chuck said, you know, the what are the carbide? Easy Wood tools have aluminum shafts, so the magnet doesn't keep it in place. So the scallops are a good backup for keeping the tool where I want it to be. And I think that's all the pictures I've submitted
it
to this
is.
point. Susan, I'll comment too. I'm using two of those magnetic bars, one here and one holding the sanding discs, and they are very strong and very helpful for something that you want to secure on the wall or someplace and still have easy access to them. So that's a tool that would be worthwhile for you to find a place in your shop for it. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, let's see. Let's go to Mr. Rick. See if I can find the right. I think it's right here. You're on, Rick.
As you can pretty much see, and most of you have been to my shop, I built a wall behind me that my lathe sits over just in front of that. I'm working, I can just sit around and grab all the tools. The tool crib rack was built several years ago. It's got like a couple degree angle so the tools face back. I just sit them in there. I don't have to use any magnet or anything. There's scallops around the midsection there that you can see. And then I have holes drilled in that I keep things like for pen mandrels and all. You may notice if you zoom in on the top of those tools, I have started putting a piece of plastic tubing around some of my tools. That came from when I was carrying them back and forth to school over at Dean's shop over there, so that the tips didn't bang together. But I found it to be a very good protect. If for some reason one of those tools should fall, it's covered with a piece of plastic tubing. The shelf down below just keeps junk. And then, of course, when I built the original, it was when I first started, and I thought that I would have enough space for every tool I would ever own. And we all know how that works out. So the ones down at the bottom are the taller tools, things that I keep there. You can't see in this picture, I don't think. Above, I have shelves where I keep all sanding stuff that I need, all parts, that and the other. And I've just started here. Well, not just started, but I have the sanding disc as well on the little clip-ins with, and then I built holders both of my sanders, as you can see. And then down below there, we see brushes where my smaller tools go. And this is a French cleat over on the left-hand side there, so I can move tools around as needed. And there was I think I probably rearranged this thing at least 100 times and will probably continue to do so. But I can keep my jaws up on for my cold jaws up. I don't know that you can see it, Bruce, but right there to the left, you see that little white line? Yeah, right there. I think there's another picture that covers that, but we'll see. There it goes. That was 3 little setups that had 3 drawers each. And I've screwed them together and then screw them on the wall. And I keep all of my round sanding discs. So as I need them, I just pull them out and use them and then stick them back in if they're not done. I keep some sheet sandpaper down in those red folders down below there. And then the vacuum that I use is sitting right below that. Paper towels up top, of course, and then over on the right-hand side of that tool crib, you'll see that I have my air hose hanging there, so I can just grab it. But what I've come to really like about this is I'm able to not have to move much at all. I can just turn around and grab everything I need. Nothing's in the way, and it stores away. That's pretty much it. I think this is just it from another angle. That's the little tool guide, dust mask, tool overflow, and the original. I've pretty much like Mark in as much as if I don't see it, I probably am not going to even remember I have it in a lot of cases. But it's just so much easier to have stuff out there to be able to just turn around and use. I built something very similar to what Ken built. I actually used his idea with the scallops that goes on the back of the leg, that using the tools, instead of having them roll around on the ways of the lathe, it's in between the ways, and I can put 3 tools in the scallops there. I find that pretty handy because I'm always using one and then setting it down. And as I set it down, I know it's not going to roll off.
See you, Mark.
I didn't build anything underneath of my lathe because I find it much easier to clean up. But on my Powermatic, there's shelves on each side of that. And that's where I keep my extra tool rest. I just set them down there on that shelf. So when I need them, I can grab them. That's pretty much it, Bruce.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Madden. Ready?
Ooh.
Ooh, my.
Is he still with us?
Yeah,
There we go. You're on, sir.
but he's muted.
I tried to do a video of this, but I failed miserably. And had I shown what I actually made, you'd all be sick by now because the camera was moving all over the place, and I didn't get the job done. Anyway, this is, and I didn't realize, I guess I didn't think about it, that we were going to show multiple things. I thought it was just one simple rack. So this is just a rack that I made to go behind. My lathe is against the wall, which I prefer that as opposed to a lathe in the middle of a room. So this is at the tailstock end, or the end of the lathe, and it's pushed up flat against the wall. And you can see a lot of the same things that you've already heard about the magnetic bars. I've got the short bar and the long bar, and then the bar that are in the middle, it serves either way. I put tape over the end, over the edge of the magnets. I put duct tape or something, just so it doesn't get that heavy snap when the metal hits the metal. So the top one's covered too. It's covered with black tape, and the bottom one's covered with white tape. But same principle as you've already seen. And a couple of tips about the magnetic bars. If you try to, like the skew that's on the left side, if you try to pull that skew off, the third tool in, if you try to pull that tool off of the magnet, I find that I don't have enough muscle to do that. They really, really, really stick. And all you have to do is grab, I got in the habit of grabbing the metal just above the handle. And, and you just give it a real slight twist and then take it away. That little twist will disconnect it from the magnet, or at least it tips it up on the edge of the tool, and then you can pull it away very easily. Another thing that people have criticized or cursed the magnets is that your tool will become magnetized, and it does to some extent. I've heard people complain that they get so magnetized that when they slide it across their tool rest, it affects how it slides. If you have that issue, it's real simple to demagnetize steel. So just find a note on Google or whatever and figure out how to do it, or go down to your local secondhand junk store and buy an old tape eraser It's a thing you plug into the wall, and it was used to erase reel-to-reel tapes or 8-track tapes or whatever. And you can demagnetize real easy with that. This sits against the outside wall. I'm in a steel building, so you can see the rippled edges on the wall. And here's the other picture of it swiveled out. So it's now, and you can't see it, but the tools now are right at the end of the lathe, and they're within reach without me even moving my feet. So if this is on a TV swivel, TV screen swivel, and it swivels with one finger, you can just move it in and out and twist it to different shapes and configurations. And this is, I think there's 10 or 12 slots on there, but I only put the tools up there that I'm using for that particular project. And then right behind me on the wall is my bigger collection of tools, I guess you'd say. So this, and this was a posed picture. I just threw some of that was up there, and I just threw a couple more in. But if I'm doing a bowl, I would have gouges and a probably a parting tool, and maybe that Badan that's the second one in from the right. But this tool rack changes all the time. I tailor. Does that mean I'm starting again?
Yeah.
Do you see my rack? Do you see the rack? I don't see it anymore. Anyway, on the lower left-hand corner, there was I'm a magnet guy. I use magnets for everything. And Susan, I would suggest that you go to Harbor Freight and buy one of their crummy big bars like you've seen everybody using, like the bar across there. And that pink strip on the bottom is a magnet bar. Hanging off the end of that, you see something hanging down in front of off the end of the rack. That's for removing chips from a hollow form. And then on the upper right-hand corner, there's a magnet on a handle that I use when I drop things. So that's just my handy dandy board that I move. And then I found a separate plus to that. It also extends out straight. I've got it twisted now to probably a, I don't know, 45 to 40 degree angle. It also pulls straight out, and then it serves another lathe that's on the back wall. So I can use it as the handy dandy, just the few tools that I'm using on that project on that other lathe. So that TV swivel I've been real happy with it. If you see down below on the lower left-hand corner, I've got something somewhat similar to what to what Ken showed, where he's got his tool rest. I have the cursor's right on top of a piece of steel. That is.
Anyway, I'm on a thing here.
The steel is right on the mounted to the wall right behind the lathe, and I've got, you see 2, but I think there's about 8 tool rests lined up in there. And on the end of that rack in the red and blue are the angle electric angled drills for sanding. On the far right, close to where the cursor is now, is a real small picture of the corner of my sanding disc.
And you can peel off.
And you just miss seeing the labels on it, but those are pull-out drawers. And I used to have my sandpaper sanding discs out, but I kept getting sawdust that I had to clean up, and it's real hard to vacuum around sanding discs because they end up going down the vacuum cleaner. Now on the back wall, you see my plugins for all the paraphernalia, and you can see there's several cords. Some of those, and a few, you can't read them, I don't think, but some of them are marked, the circuits are marked on those. And when I leave the room and turn off my lights, it shuts off several of those cords. So it shuts off all my small lights, the lights on the LED lights that are on the like on the goosenecks. So anything that I kind of mess up and forget and leave on, I put on the switched box, and then things that I know that I turn off stay on the right-hand side. And several of the things that have been shown, like Ken's tool holder, so you're not laying things on the lathe bed. I heavily recommend doing something like that, or get tools or shape your tools so they don't roll off, because that's one of the biggest cause of injuries, other than with the lathe running, that woodworkers get is when their tool rolls off the lathe and sticks them in the foot. And those black handled things up in the tool rack are all they're Stuart Batty's handles. They're not his tools, but they're Stuart Batty handles that are using a collet system like the robust tools. It's a combination of the two different things. And Bill McDonald, I believe, has several of these, and they're absolutely awesome because you can put any size tool in. You can see on the left side, there's a small handle with it's either a 1/4 or 3/8 inch spindle gouge. And then on the further right, I don't see the big one in there, but I also have one that uses a 3/4 inch bowl gouge, which I actually use as a roughing gouge. And I used to travel a lot with my tools, so I have a case that I carry the tools in, and I like using those where I can separate the handle and the tool, or I can turn the tool inside out, put the sharpened part inside the handle so I don't take up as much space or the tools don't get dinged up. That's all I have.
Dave, I have a question for you. I like the idea of using that TV mount because it does swivel and turns around. But does that give you access to the back side of that panel for storing additional tools?
Actually, I've never thought of it, Ken. No, I would say no, because when it folds up, it folds pretty tight to the wall. I guess if you had a tool rack back there, you could just leave it out away from the wall a little ways. I don't need more tool space. And I thought about you when I was seeing the tools in the drawer, because I had a conversation with Ed one day about that, because he had drawers of tools just thrown in, and he was actually using them. They weren't stuff that was put away. He was using them. And I have all of my tools standing up in some kind of a rack. I don't like tools where the tool sticks down. Some people like to do that. I find that I have a method with my tools, and I sharpen them before I put them away. So if I'm using a tool, I have a grinder there that's usually running. So I will sharpen it just before I put it in the rack. And I use the rack, well, like that temporary one or like that swivel one. I don't know how many, probably 8 or 10 or whatever, racks throughout my turning room with all the tools. So like for you, I would take those, you said you were going to redo your rack. I would take your old rack and find a space on the wall on the other side of the garage and put it up, and then build your new rack, and someday you'll have 10 racks. But you will have all of your tools where they can remain sharp, and you don't have to grind on them for an hour to take all the dings out from the drawer, from sitting in the drawer. And another thing, my turning room is, let's put it this way, you don't want to be claustrophobic and turn there. It is tiny. It is, my lathe is against the wall, and then the total width of the room is 5 feet. It's done that way very intentionally. It's, my shop has plenty of space, so it's not a space issue. It's a confinement issue. Confine the mess. And I've determined that of all the power tools, the wood lathe is the messiest of all. So my my turning room is made with metal studs, and the outside, which faces into my shop, is sheetrocked. The inside is open. So between every stud, and my studs I think are like 2 foot center, between every stud is a tool rack. And in some cases, 2 tool racks, one down around waist level and one up high. I have all my beading tools, since they are short and extremely vulnerable to damage if you ding those little points. I have them up high, so I have to reach up, and I do not have them on magnets. I've got them where you stick them in a hole and drop them into another hole, like we've all shown for the bottom of our tools. So I've got probably a 2 foot section with just short tools that I have to reach up high and I have to lift them out of the rack. The rest of mine, I've got, and it's probably going to be the same for you if you keep your Idaho rack. Your next rack will be an improvement. I don't know what you'll do, but it'll be different, and then the next rack will be different, and so I have one of each. I have some that just tilt in. I have some that you have to drop through a hole and then into the bottom support hole. And I have lots of them with magnets. And Susan, for you, don't ever worry about a tool falling out of a magnet rack if you make the rack correctly. They will not fall out. Any other questions?
Bruce, what are we looking at here?
You mean that speech I just gave you didn't hear?
No,
You're going to have to repeat it all.
I was talking away and it was quiet, you know. This is Dean Humphrey's shop. He wasn't able to join us today. And, you know, you can see some of the stuff, it's similar. But what I wanted to share, this is the rack that he has made for all the Yavapai College lathes. So those of you that have had a class there before, you'll recognize this is a major step up in terms of getting organized and things readily available at the college for the class.
You might notice they painted the walls there too.
Oh, yeah.
He's done
Yeah.
a lot of good work there.
Did he get rid of the carousel racks that they used to
Yes.
have in the work table area?
Yes, got rid of all of those.
That looks great. A significant improvement.
He and Steve Dudar have really worked hard to try and improve the facility over there. I got to give them both a lot of credit.
Okay, now we can move on to the other racks. Shoot, I lost the title. Larry, is this yours?
Yeah, that's mine.
You want to
I
tell us about it?
I copied that from, I think it was Mark that bought one at one of the tool sales.
Yeah, Mark told us
Uh,
earlier about buying the one from Ed Jones.
Yeah, so I missed that part of the meeting. I got in here a little late. But anyhow, what I got 90% of my tools in that rack right there. Uh, and it swivels, and of course all the tips are up. And the reason that I quit using the magnets was like uh,
Dave said?
you guys were talking about before, it magnetized my tools and they would stick to one of my tool rests. Some of them I have a couple of tool rests that didn't really stick to, so they're made out of something different. Uh, one or two of them, they'd stick to it and you couldn't slide it across. So anyway, I demagnetized them and I put them in this kind of a rack. So then down in those drawers, I've got some chucks and some different things inside the drawers, but uh, extra sandpaper. I actually keep most of my sandpaper all separated in one big drawer because I used a 3-inch disc on most everything. And I got them separated, so by grit in a big drawer. But uh, but that's basically where I keep all my tools, and it's right next to my lathe. You can't see you might be able to see where the dustpan is the end of my lathe, and that tool rack is on rollers, so I can roll it over by the lathe closer if I want to, and so. Pretty much the same thing as Mark has on his, and I'm sure you probably already went through all that. So,
Mhm. Okay, thanks.
uh-huh.
And let's see here. Spence, this one's yours. Similar thing, right? Let's see. Spence must be muted. Is he still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Mine's really old. I picked that up on the first class that I took at Yavapai College in around 2000 or something like that. And they had all their tools in these carousel racks. Each carousel had the same tools, and so the students would go and pick a tool out of the rack. And then, of course, the tool was useless, so you had to go and sharpen it and mess with it. But I like the convenience of it. And like Larry said, probably 95% of the tools that I use are in this rack. And I have 2 lathes in 2 different rooms. So it's on wheels and I just move it from one lathe to the other. Since it's a carousel, I set it up and, you know, all the tools are really handy and right in front of me. In the drawers, the first drawer has got they're mostly sandpaper, and in the very bottom drawer is the buffing system. But it's convenient, and they say I've used it for a long time, and I haven't found anything that would suit me any better than what I've got.
Cool. Okay.
Spence,
Now-
can we go back, Bruce, can we go back to that picture? Because I want to ask about something else in the picture. Spence, it looks like you've built a covered shelf below your lathe. You want to tell us anything about that?
Yeah, the Powermatic comes with 2 little brackets on each of the legs, but you can't get anything in there because of the way the legs are designed. So so I had to figure out a way to I wanted a place to store my chucks and other miscellaneous stuff but primarily the chucks that go on the lathe. So I made the measurements and I built the box, but then I had to take a leg off to get the box in there. So, but I found it really, really handy. I've got, half a dozen or 6 or 8, I don't know how many, chucks in there, and some of the miscellaneous other stuff. But again, I don't move very much when I'm turning. My tools are right there, and all of the lathe parts are right there. So for me, it's really convenient.
Storing that many
Spence?
chucks also stabilizes the lathe a little bit, right?
I'm sorry, what?
Storing that many chucks in that box probably stabilizes your lathe a little bit.
Yeah, it probably does.
Does that box build up a lot of chips?
It's flat on the top, so yeah, you have to brush it off. But I thought about, making a tent top, but it was more simple just to make a flat box and just brush the chips off. In fact, when I lift the box up, the chips fall off the back.
I think it'd be worthwhile to point out too, the tools. You've got a magnetic bar on your lathe there too. I saw that and I went and I had some rare earth magnets that I just epoxied to the front of my lathe to do the same thing. It's very convenient to have them attached to the front of the lathe like that rather than on a rack anywhere close by. So Susan, you could also use this idea with the magnetic bar. It makes it more convenient.
Yeah, it really, for me, it really makes a difference.
Yeah, I noticed that because I have the 3 lathes because of the kids, and right now I have my tools that change out the chucks and everything in a little rack on the wall, and so I'm constantly having to walk over there. I saw that and I'm like, that's a pretty cool thing. I'm going to be investing in Harbor Freight magnets for some of these things.
Hey, Susan, something about these Harbor Freight magnets everyone can know. They are, 18 inches long, and then they have tape over them. If you take that tape off, you'll find that it's not one solid magnet. They're each 1.5 inches long. So that gives you an access to a lot of magnets. So you're going to end up with like 12 magnets, 1.5 inches long, that then allows you to put them wherever you want.
Very nice.
Yeah.
The other thing, Susan, I'll share with you, if you have small things, for instance, my lathe, I don't have the button to lock the chuck. I've got a little piece that I screw in and that locks the chuck. Well, that thing's only about 2 inches long and maybe 3/8 in diameter. The magnet that comes in an electric toothbrush, when you get done with that brush, pick that magnet out. I stick that to my lathe, and that little piece holds quite well.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm because of how it's going to have to be set up over there, I'm really liking both concepts I've seen so far, which is on the wall, because one of my lathes will be close to that, and but the other two lathes, the rolling would work quite well because then I can go to the other ones.
Okay. Bob, I think this is yours.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to recognize Spence, who has been a great help in terms of a mentor. And I stole the basic idea from him of the mobility, because I do have two lathes, one Powermatic, which is the main one, and then a smaller Rikon. It was fairly easy to build in terms of, I purchased the cart, built the shelving unit underneath, elevated the platform itself above, and just drilled the holes as I needed. Of course, as everyone else is saying, as you go along, you find more and more that you need. So this may outgrow itself. We'll have to see. But the flat platform underneath there, I can roll it right up to either lathe, and I kind of lay the tools that I'm using at the time right on there, and I'm not worried about it going anyplace. On the top drawer, I did kind of partitions where I have the different adapters and screws and so forth. Then below that, the chucks and chuck jaws, let's see, face plates, and so forth. But it was fairly easy to build. But it sure makes life a lot easier to be able to hold everything in one place, basically. Although I have gotten a lot of good ideas from everyone else on different ways to utilize the space. So I'm going to try and use that. Behind there, you can see where I've got mounted on the wall my Forstner bits and adapters, some of them, not all. And then I've got shelving on either side that holds some of the stains and finishes. The opposite side you can't see is mainly bowl blanks that I use and let to dry a little bit. But oh, and in the very front of the cart, you can see I've got an organizer for sandpaper, similar to what everyone else has been using in it. Again, it really turns out great, but I've gotten some additional ideas I've made notes on that I'm sure will turn out very handy.
Nice job.
Ah,
That's it.
okay. It went on to the next one. This is mine. And I started out with a platform. I bought an old Black & Decker Workmate. You can get them at estate sales, garage sales.
We don't see it, Bruce.
Aha. That makes sense to me. Hang on a minute. Got it. Let's see. So that being the case, let's go to Dick Kelly.
Okay, my shop is set up in a downstairs bedroom. And eventually, when we sell the house, we're going to have to remove the shop. So I don't have hardly anything wall mounted. And I'm just kind of stand in the middle of in the room and take pictures around. This is actually the least interesting picture. This is my sharpening station, which is, okay. Okay, keep going. And okay, that's my old lathe. I want to thank Dave Madden, because I just bought a new lathe on the basis of information I got from him on the last chips and grits. That's my old jet. That's actually just pushed against the wall to get it out of the way. And I have that that red tin uh, thing down under the bottom of it that I use for storage. Um, and okay, there's the new lathe. I got one of the Power Record benchtop lathes. I've got it mounted on the top of an old Harbor Freight workbench. I put those drawers in the workbench to good use. They've got a variety of tools in them, and I put some reinforcement on the workbench, and where it's open in the bottom there of the workbench, I put another shelf in there and put some pavers in there just to put some more ballast down at the bottom of that unit. Behind the lathe, you can see that I've just got a sheet of plywood that's suspended from a rack up near the top of the wall. So I do have stuff behind the lathe that I can reach up and get, but it's not attached to the wall, it's attached to the plywood. So when I need to sell the house, I can just take the plywood down. And over on the right side of the picture, you can see my my rack of tools. This is a what not to do in terms of safety. They're all conveniently available, and the short ones are in the front. The taller ones are in the back, and the sharp ones are in the back and off to the side. So I can pretty much stand at the lathe and reach anything I need to get. There is that nice place over on the top of the workbench. I think I'm going to build myself a collection of the sanding discs that I can put out there, like Mark had, and I'll just bring them out and use them when I need them, and that's just a handy thing to do. And if you want to just look around the rest of the shop, and this is a 9 by 12 bedroom, so it's not real big. That's yeah, that's just a rack that sits in the corner. Spence will remember that air filtration system because he's the one who helped hoist it up there on top of the rack, so it doesn't have to be suspended from the ceiling. It's just up there, and I've got a workmate there. I do have after having seen all the very, very nice shops, and I think they're all very nice. I just really, this is just a dumpy little place by comparison. But it's a work in progress. I just got that new lathe within the past month, and Zim helped me carry it downstairs and get it set up. I was going to get a nicer table like the one that's down in the lower left corner there, and I still just have a card table there to set stuff down on. And I like it because it's a nice garage for my shop vac. Just sits right in under there, and I can't think of anything that would be better for my purposes than that. So that's pretty much a look around at my storage. You can kind of see just some wood blanks and stuff like that there. But this is the this is the other extreme from the very nice shops. This is just a shop with a little lathe in it that I only spend 6 months turning in.
But it's functional for you.
Yeah, it's functional, it's small, it's handy. And there is a lot of storage in
Hey, Dick,
there. Yeah.
what do you have in New England?
It's functional in the same way this does, but I have pretty much a duplicate shop. I have a one-way in England, or not in England, in New England. The medium size, the 1630, is that the number on it? Which is the nicest lathe I have. And I have a bandsaw, have a sharpening station, and that's pretty much it. Because I move back and forth, I don't have a lot of the turning amenities that you all have in your shop that I'd like to have a vacuum chuck. But I've never pulled the trigger on having a vacuum chuck in one place or the other. And so, and when I go back and forth, I have stuff like my chucks that are expensive and some carving tools. I've gotten it down so I ship myself 3 UPS boxes back and forth across the country with some of that stuff in it. And some of my favorite gouges, I ship back and forth, but they're both pretty basic little places.
Obviously, you do a lot with the basics.
Well, actually, I was, I was talking just yesterday. Rick was over at the shop looking at the new lathe, but I'm real good at embellishing and stuff like that, but I'm not much of a turner. This new lathe has given me an opportunity. It's actually got a speed control on it. It's got reverse on it. It's got a lot of stuff that the old jet that's been pushed up against the wall with the reed drive didn't have on it. And so I've just been spending a lot of time looking at YouTube videos, and I really enjoyed Emiliano Archibald's demo for the club last week. I'm just trying, now that I've got a more versatile lathe to use, I'm trying to teach myself how to turn.
Far too humble.
Well, you know, I go through probably a lot more sandpaper than the rest of you who could make nice clean cuts. So I'm trying to cut down on my sandpaper use just by sharpening. I think I may have a trip over to your shop, Spence, for some mentoring. I like the way Emiliano used the various grinds on his gouges and used his number 5 Badger to clean stuff up with. Yeah, this new lathe has given me a new lease on life in turning to actually try and do a better job in the technique of it.
You're welcome anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Dick. Okay. This is my crude little tool holder. I started with a Black & Decker Workmate, added this tool holder at the top. All the long tools are on the outside, and it's such that I typically don't reach through the tools. I reach around and pick up the tool from the outside edge. It also holds my vacuum pump or my vacuum chuck. And then here's how I store my sanding discs down at the bottom. And then I put it on wheels, depending on what I'm doing. If I'm normally turning, I'll have this at the tailstock end of my lathe. If I'm using the vacuum chuck, I got to wheel it around and put it at the headstock so I can reach with the cords and the tubes to make the vacuum chuck work. And there should be, and then on the end, I had some other tools that I don't use a lot, but occasionally. And so my magnetic bar, and down here, the plastic, stick it in and then slide it in to hold the tools in place.
Bruce, is that workmate screwed to the wooden dolly?
Actually, it's not, but there are Forstner bit recesses
Oh,
to hold the legs.
gotcha.
Yeah. You can see the outline there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you wouldn't want that to slip off.
No. Let's see, one more I want to show you. Howard couldn't be here. He ended up with a doctor's appointment. I don't know how many of you have been in his shop. He's a combination wall and stand mount. These are all on panels that fold out and kind of surround his lathe. So that makes things, pretty convenient for what he needs to do. And then this is the reason I wanted to show his stuff. This is an old tool holder he has that's available for anybody that wants to come pick it up. He's ready to get rid of it. It's a setup that works. It also may be something you want just because you can use the plastic tubes and from there do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, and I think, believe it or not, let me do some checking, but I think that's the end of what I have. Did I miss anybody? Jerry Walder sent me some stuff. Now I got to go back and go to here. If you do this long enough, sooner or later you get the hang of it.
Is that going to happen soon, Bruce?
I don't think this year. Here's what Jerry uses: plastic tubes, and then just sticks tools down in them. And in a bucket when he travels. The bracket he's got on the end of the lathe to store various things in, racks. He's got his so you can easily see and grab and go. I'm not sure what he uses the golf balls for. That would have been interesting to find out. Sanding discs. And that's it.
Bruce, go back to the golf ball picture.
Okay. Now I got to go back all the way. Go here. Yes. And go to, oh, cute. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's here. There it is. Why don't you share that? Go here. Share. Made it.
There. I don't know what he's doing with the golf balls, but I just saw the tennis ball there too. I just wanted to point out This has nothing to do with storage of tools, but the tennis ball can come in very handy if you have some kind of a hollow form or a large mouth that you're turning. You can put the tennis ball in there and bring your tailstock up and apply a little pressure to it to hold it in place so that you have your tailstock in place, again, as a safety feature. I've used tennis balls, and you can get some other small round rubber balls, something like that. Just turns out to be handy to make sure you're using your tailstock as much as you can. I don't know what he would be using the golf balls for, though, so it'd be interesting to find out.
Maybe it's the same thing.
It could be just for smaller size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I've got some uses for the golf balls, Ken. If you use the center punches where you just press on them and they punch a center hole, if the spring-loaded ones,
Yeah.
if you press on the back of that thing enough, you'll wear a hole in your hand. And if you put a golf ball on the end of it, it's real easy to do, to punch and to like do a real light punch and then a heavier punch. And then if you want to, you can hold the center punch in place and actually whack the golf ball with your hand. So any place you need a knob, a golf ball works quite well. I use them for knockout handles. I just take a piece of steel, whatever size diameter you want,
Oh,
and drill that size hole in the golf ball and put it on the end for a handle. And the rubber in the golf ball will grip the handle and will stay forever. In fact, they're kind of hard to get off sometimes. But I keep a knockout rod at the headstock of my lathe. It's just off the end of the left end of the lathe, like a picture we saw just a little while ago. And then on the right-hand end, I have one that drops between the lathes and just down so that the tailstock will slide over the top of it. But I can pick that up and use it to knock out from the tailstock end. Anyway, golf balls make good handles for lots of things.
Thanks for that, Dave. I had never considered using a golf ball. I assume you drill a hole to match whatever tool you're trying to attach it to.
That's what I do, and they shrink down and hold tight. And I've got probably 30 or 40 square shaft turning things that I've made out of the square steel. I think they're 3/8 square, and I just drill a 3/8 hole and then square up the corners at least a little bit right at to cut the plastic basically. Mm-hmm. And once you get past the plastic, you can drive a square thing in there, and then that actually serves as a handle for like hollow forming. You know, a lot of these things that I've done, I learned I figured out or learned a long time before all the fancy hollowing tools and elbows and Jameson's tools and so on. So in the old days, we had to improvise a lot, and golf balls were a savior for me.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
that's good to know, a second use for golf balls, because my golf balls are just to soak up water.
Well, that's why I ended up with so many handles, because I used to play golf and I had lots of golf balls, and you know, they'd be marked up or they'd be rejects or they'd be whatever. And I had to find a use for some of them instead of throwing them in the garbage because I'm such a tightwad. And I started using golf balls, and then I quit golfing, and man, I had all kinds of handles. So don't throw those golf balls away, except the ones that land in the water. Don't try to save those.
Okay, I think I covered everybody, didn't I?
think so.
Anybody have anything else they want to talk about this morning?
I'd just like to
John?
make a comment regarding Susan and setting up your shop. I might have a couple things that I would like to check with you to see if you're interested in using. And like I've got a rolling cart that I bought from Mark for $20, and I'll give you it for $20 less than I spend on it. But there may be some of us who have some extra stuff. So if there's anything you need that you can think of right now, do you want to mention it? And we all can look and see if we have anything to help you out with.
That would be great. Because ideas is the main thing, you know,
Mhm.
because like I said right now, because the garage is huge, and I kind of right now I separated it with some shelving units and stuff because my mom, it's attached to my mom's guest house. And so, and she has dogs, so I'm keeping them out. And you know, so it's just any ideas that you have would be definitely helpful. And I had everything. The electrician did all my lathes, so they're on their separate, you know, switch. So I, you know, won't be popping breakers or anything like that. But yeah, I might take you up on looking to see what you have there, Chuck.
You could also let Marge know or let us know at a meeting, and we'll let everybody know that what you're looking for and try and get you set up.
Okay. Yeah, and Dean Humphrey, he just lives right down the road from me. So when I'm ready, I might be just knocking on his door, say, come on over, can you see what I have and see how I can set it up? You know, because I do have, you know, I have a sharpening grinder with the Wolverines that I don't know how to set it up. I don't even know how to use it, but I have it
Call
in
Spence. Call Spence.
Spence.
Yeah. Do you have CBN wheels or regular grinding wheels?
No, they're like, I bought it. I can't remember who I bought it off of, but it's the low speed with the diamond wheels on it for sharpening of wood turning tools.
Good.
Susan,
Don't
can
be
I
afraid to
suggest
ask.
something?
Don't be
And-
afraid to
and-
reach out, Susan, if you need help.
Okay.
What I would suggest is you just complete a wish list, like a Christmas list. I'm serious because, you know, you can have 10 things listed and Bruce may look at his shop and say, hey, I don't have number 1 through 8, but I got a number 9 and I don't need. So you may get a skew or a bowl gouge or a whatever, maybe a vacuum cleaner, whatever.
Okay.
So I always encourage people, especially that are beginning, just to make out a Christmas wish list and let it be known you've got it.
Okay.
Anything else this morning?
Thanks for a good job, Bruce.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Bruce, do you want to announce about next month?
Next month is going to be extremely special because we have an expert that's going to be leading the meeting. I've asked Ken to take over for next month. The reason is at the time we have the meeting, I'm going to be in Amsterdam. So a little tough to get the connections going there. Plus with the time difference, I'm not sure I want to be up at that hour. But Ken is going to take over for next month. And we're talking about ingrain, turning, sanding, finishing. How the heck do you do all that stuff? So thanks very much, Ken, for taking over next month. And I'll be looking forward to watching the video when I get back.
And we'll see if I can remember how to do all of this. Thank you, Bruce. I still appreciate you hosting these.
My pleasure. Anybody have anything else they want to add? If not, we'll sign off. Thank you one and all for joining.
All right,
Thank you, Bruce.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.